Hey everyone, welcome back. Today's story is a hard one, but also an important one. Today's story ends the justice chapter of my story. Not the end of healing, but the moment where we actually got some closure. This is the story of the conviction and what it actually felt like to hear the word guilty. My justice journey was a long one. This did not happen quickly. We went through two full trials. There was a preliminary hearing in 2011, the first trial in 2013, and the second trial in 2014. Altogether, I estimate that I testified for over 30 hours. The preliminary hearing, I was on the stand for about 2 hours. The first trial, if I remember correctly, was about 14, and the second trial was about 16, over 2 full days. 30 hours sitting in the courtroom, reliving and retelling the world about some of the most painful things that ever happened to me. The first trial was devastating. The first trial was a hung jury. For those of you who don't know, a hung jury is when the jurors cannot align on either an all guilty or an all not guilty verdict. And so at a certain point, they say we are not able to come to an agreement, and it becomes a hung jury. Half the jury got stuck on things like semantics about the word intent. What does it mean? Whether I was 12 years old or 14 years old when certain things happened to me. Why does it matter, you ask? Well, because criminal charges change based on your age. They had questions about whether my siblings were telling the truth in their testimony because, aside from their word, we had no physical evidence of the abuse. The defense attorney tried to spin the narrative to say that they were lying to back me up and that they hadn't actually been harmed. After hearing that they couldn't reach a verdict, I remember just being stunned and frankly sad. These questions felt like there was obvious answers to them. Of course there was intent. You don't just hurt someone over and over and over again without the intent to do so. Who cares if I was 12 or 14? The incident clearly happened. He confessed to it. Why are we arguing about how old I was? It was so frustrating. But I also understand that the defense attorney did exactly what he was hired to do, plant doubt in the minds of the jury. And even though I hated the outcome, I do appreciate that those protections exist so that innocent people are not wrongfully convicted. At the time, though, I was 24 years old and terrified about what this meant for us. Does this mean he's free? Did my siblings and I go through hell and all this testimony for nothing? Would my father try to get custody of my siblings again? I was so scared that he would never be punished and that all this work to protect my siblings had failed. So, when the DA told me that they were definitely going to try the case again, that the hung jury didn't mean justice was over, I was so relieved. The second trial was both easier and harder. Because of the lack of tangible evidence for the abuse against my siblings, the DA made a difficult decision. They decided to drop those charges related to my siblings' abuse and focused only on what they could 100% prove, the abuse against me. For evidence of what he did to me, we had plenty. We had emails he wrote. We had a recorded verbal confession, a pretext call that I worked with law enforcement to obtain. We had his own words in a book he published, citing the way he hurt his children. We had things my mother wrote acknowledging the abuse, and then, of course, my own testimony in the process. But it was still hard. It still meant that my siblings wouldn't get justice for what he had done to them, and that hurt deeply. The only silver lining is that my siblings have told me that they felt grateful that they were able to testify in the first trial. They felt heard, even if the court couldn't convict on their behalf. The second trial was shorter. The evidence was simpler. It focused only on my statements and the evidence they had of what my father had done to me. And without my siblings' testimony, the defense attorney couldn't spin in some ridiculous story about them conspiring against my father with me, as if that's something we would ever do. And this time, the jury saw it clearly, at least what he did to me. I was 26 when the verdict came. By then, I'd had legal custody of my siblings for over 4 years. The youngest was about to turn 18. I was separated and in the middle of divorce proceedings with my then husband. I had cut contact with my toxic mother, only seeing her when absolutely necessary. I had a good job with a great team, and I had done a lot of therapy by then. My father's power in my life had already begun to shrink dramatically. I didn't fear him the way I used to. The nightmares were fewer. Driving past my childhood home didn't paralyze me anymore, though I would never willingly step into it again. When the DA called and said that there was a verdict and that I could come to court, I told her I was busy. I was at work. I was in the middle of a project I cared about. I was living a life that finally felt like mine. I had already given this man so many years of my time and my attention that regardless of the outcome, I didn't want to give him any more of my time. There's a quote by Marcus Aurelius that says, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." And that day, being unlike him meant living my life, not sitting in a courtroom waiting for his name to be called. Later that day, I got a text from the DA, guilty on all charges. My heart skipped. Guilty. He's guilty. And now the world would know exactly, with absolute certainty, the kind of person he really was. That mask of religious perfection he put on, the image he tried to portray of being a perfect father, the story of being a victim of false accusations from his family and his children, it all collapsed in one word: guilty. I remember just sitting at my desk, reading that message and just breathing and just feeling so calm and content. Finally, pretty sure I had a couple tears at the same time, but I just felt so heard and seen and satisfied, like the work and this energy and exhaustion and chaos of the last 4 years had truly meant something. It had meant justice for us. Later that day, I posted on Facebook, thanking the people who supported me and sharing that justice had finally happened and that he'd been convicted. My uncle, my father's brother, told me to take it down. He said that family business didn't belong on Facebook and that we needed to keep this private within the family. But I disagreed. My father hurt many people, not just us, both criminally, emotionally. He was not a good man. I just happened to be the one who stood up against him. And so I didn't take the post down. This is my story, and I choose to tell it, not hide it away. And it felt good. And he was sentenced to 14 years in prison. And then life moved on. A month later, I got my dream job offer. I sold my house. My divorce was finalized. My siblings and I moved, and we built a new normal with just the three of us. And it was one where his presence no longer loomed over us or what we were doing, where we no longer had to worry that he would just show up somewhere because he was now locked away and safe in prison. And for the first time, we really got to breathe and feel safe from his clutches. I still speak with pride about putting my father in prison. But honestly, the real victory wasn't necessarily the sentence. It was about being able to have a voice and being able to tell my story. It was being able to stop giving my abuser space in my daily life. Today, I try to really only revisit this chapter when I'm writing or making a video, and maybe sometimes when doing some therapy talks with the girlfriends, not to relive it, but with the goal to transform it. My goal is to use what I survived to help others. And that, for me, is how I take my power back from my abuser. If you are working toward justice or preparing to testify, I hope you find peace. I know it's a lot. I hope you get a conviction, but more than that, I hope that your voice is heard. For me, at least, telling the truth was so healing in its own way, even when the outcome is complicated. You deserve to be seen, you deserve to be believed, and you deserve a future that is not defined by what someone did to you. Thank you for being here with me. I'm Janae Cherie, and I hope that my story helps you to tell yours. Thanks for spending part of your day with me. If you want to be part of this growing healing community, you're invited to subscribe.